Welcome to the Fantasy Football Forge. My name is Steve, and we're going to continue Rankings Day this lovely afternoon with the running back position. Earlier on today, I came out with the quarterbacks video and the tight ends video, and a little bit later on today, the wide receivers video will be coming out. Also on Saturday is my start sit video, and just a reminder that these rankings are fluid, so you can find the updated rankings as of Thursday at www.theFFForge. For these positions for the running back and the wide receiver this afternoon, those will be different than what we are seeing here. There will be some changes because I will have finished my projections. I will have gotten more information and be able to apply that to the rankings. In the instance of the running backs and the wide receivers, I have started off with the expert consensus ranking taken from Fantasy Pros as of late Tuesday evening and then move them around. And especially this week, we're going to see there's a lot of things that we don't know about the running back position quite yet, about who's going to be starting this coming up weekend. So it's going to be very fluid this week, and you can find my final rankings with me live on Sunday, 1 hour before kickoff. I try to get the as finalized of rankings as I can up onto the website, but eventually I have to pull them off, and of course, the last minute questionable guys that do end up playing or don't end up playing can have some effects on sometimes even multiple players. So that is where you can get the final rankings. Let's just dive into this with a little quick explanation first. Right here, you can see my ranking, and I will go in tiers instead of a top 10, a top 12. I prefer to just lump in the most similar players together. And as far as my first tiers, I always just exclude the fact that there are going to be a few guys who are, the obvious, elite guys. I just kind of lump them in with a first tier. Then over here we have the difficulty rating, and red is going to be a good rating. Blue is a bad rating. Think of it as hot and cold. That is kind of my theme as it being a forge. And then in the white is going to be a neutral-ish matchup, and these are all relative to each other. What that means is if we were to take a bad matchup, a blue and a white matchup, and compare them to each other only, then that white matchup would look like it is red, and the blue would be even like this one would be a much deeper blue. So that is just to let you know, that's the scale that those difficulty matchups are working on, are in comparison to one another. Then over here we have the ECR and the difference between myself and the ECR, and this is where I'm kind of deciding who I'm going to highlight and talk about. For instance, right here with Miles Sanders, I have him 2 spots behind the ECR. That is why it's a negative number, so you can see where I lie with a few of these other guys who I'm not necessarily talking about. So let's start off the running back rankings then for week 14 of the fantasy football season. It's a big week. Good luck with your playoffs. Let's kick it off with Austin Ekeler at running back number 1, followed by Josh Jacobs, Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Ramondre Stevenson, Tony Pollard, Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, Joe Mixon, Ezekiel Elliott, DeAndre Swift, Miles Sanders, and Dalvin Cook to wrap up my first tier of running backs. And he's the only one we really need to talk about at all, because I have him 6 spots behind the ECR. I have him at 13th. The ECR on him is 7th. There are just 2 guys ahead of him right now that I could most realistically see ending up behind him. I'll have a tough time not putting DeAndre Swift ahead of him, but that's always possible too. But as far as Dalvin Cook goes here, going up against Detroit, it's not been a cakewalk of a matchup for some time now, so that has me concerned, and it's not like Dalvin Cook has been awesome every single week, so there's just some concerns in this matchup, but at the same time, I do still have him in this first tier because I am still expecting a good day. I have no real qualms with Dalvin Cook. He just ends up being the last one of this tier. It's really all it is. So let's move on to my second tier of running backs, which goes from Dameon Pierce at running back 14 on down to Najee Harris here at running back 21. So that group looks like this: Dameon Pierce, Travis Etienne Jr., Isaiah Pacheco, James Conner, Jeff Wilson Jr., Deonta Foreman, Jamal Williams, and then Najee Harris to wrap that tier up. The running backs fall off pretty quickly this week. Deonta Foreman, I feel like, could be higher. The running back position is not fun right now to rank. We'll just say it like that. The running backs and the wide receivers have kind of been like that for a little bit, and I'm sorry if there's some outside noise in the background. Let's start talking about Travis Etienne, who I have 3 spots behind the ECR. I have him ranked 15th. The ECR in him is 12, so he's going up against Tennessee. That has been a matchup I've largely tried to avoid with running backs, and I think that's mostly been successful. It's just not the best week for a guy who, for whatever reason, has not really gotten too involved in the passing game with Jacksonville. JaMycal Hasty comes in and he's all over the place getting catches. Travis Etienne, this guy that came out of college and everybody was flaunting, talking about how good of a pass catching back he could be, and they just refused to get him involved in that. Now, we don't know what we're talking about as the public, so there could be a very good reason for that. But since that hasn't really been a part of his profile, I don't like the straight running game up against Tennessee, down in through the numbers. So, yeah, I'm a little concerned about Travis Etienne this week. Then I have Najee Harris here at 21, which is 4 spots behind the ECR, going up against Baltimore, and he just kind of slid on me. I actually would like to get him a little bit higher, so if my projections are higher on him, he'll definitely be moving up higher without any argument. So that's there's just some concerns, I guess, with Najee as far as not being on the field so much during passing downs. Jaylen Warren taking a little bit of that work that doesn't make me want to push him up, whereas I pushed a few other players up. That's all it comes down to. Don't hate Najee this week. Going up against Baltimore, it's not a great matchup, but you can live with it. Now let's move on to the next tier of running backs, which will have a bit of a sub-tier in the bottom half of it. From running back 22 to 30, I have Raheem Mostert at running back 22, followed by Latavius Murray. Zonovan Knight is sneaking in here, so I'll explain those highlighted guys in a second. Rachaad White, Leonard Fournette, Devin Singletary, James Cook, Cam Akers, DJ Dallas, Samaje Perine, and then Jordan Mason in here. So Samaje Perine, we can almost be certain that he should not be involved in this tier, that he will probably not even be ranked by me. Joe Mixon is expected to be back from his concussion, and as long as that is the case, Samaje finds himself, very hard to use in that backup running back territory. And then Zonovan Knight here, you'll see both of them have halves on them. There's a couple more of these running backs. There's just situations that we don't know. So I'm expecting Michael Carter to come back, in which case I'm expecting there to be a bit of a split, in which case I won't quite have Zonovan Knight ranked this highly. He and Michael Carter will be ranked somewhere in this grouping, as you will see multiple backfields. I just pretty much have them ranked back to back because of some of the unknowns. Into the unknown. So with that said, those are obviously some of the guys who are going to be fluid. So Raheem Mostert here at running back 22. I have 5 spots up ahead of the ECR. The ECR on him is 27. I just tend to like these Miami backs a little bit this week. Going up against Los Angeles Chargers has been one of the softer matchups for running backs for the past 2 seasons now. I'm looking for a bounce back in that backfield in Miami, and it ultimately comes down to, I think there's going to be some opportunities for touchdowns. Can these running backs take advantage of that and get in the end zone? I think it's highly possible compared to some other situations, like Latavius Murray, who I have at running back 23, which is 2 spots behind the ECR. The ECR on him is currently at running back 21, going up against Kansas City, so that's kind of nice. It's an okay matchup. There should be chances for this Denver offense to get the ball back and move it, but they really haven't done that much this season, so it's really tough to trust their running backs, even if it is like Latavius Murray, who is getting quite a bit of the workload, the bulk of the workload. Also, some concern for Latavius Murray. Mike Boone came back before last week. He played in last week's game. He did take away, 25% of the work. That's probably right. Little over 25% of the work of the backfield between the amount of carries that Latavius and Mike Boone had. And that's something that could increase as well. So there's also some exterior concerns for Latavius Murray outside of just being on that Denver offense. Then DJ Dallas I have here in this little sub-tier of guys between Cam Akers and Jordan Mason. And these are all actually going to be guys who have some potential to be moving up. We're looking at these guys in a little bit more of a better light than where I currently have them ranked. And for DJ Dallas. I do have him ranked 10 spots ahead of the ECR currently. That's probably just some people haven't really brought him into the rankings with the unknown situation. That is the issue for Seattle right now. It's very up in the air as to who's going to be the running backs. And also, actually, DJ Dallas is another running back situation, just like Devin Singletary, James Cook, Rachaad White, Leonard Fournette, where I'm expecting that to be a split between DJ and Travis Homer if Kenneth Walker is not available. I did get Kenneth Walker's name wrong a few times in my waiver wire, so my bad on that. But as long as he's out and it's DJ Dallas, Travis Homer, like if it's only DJ Dallas, then he's going to shoot up a little bit further. Obviously, if it's DJ, like quite high, he'll be almost in a must start. But if it's DJ Dallas and Travis Homer, then we're really back, well, probably right around here in the rankings. And that will bring us to my next tier here from running back 31 through running back 36, starting off with Kyren Williams, followed by Gus Edwards, Kareem Hunt, Kenneth Gainwell, Jerick McKinnon, and Boston Scott. And I did just see, I never ended up highlighting Jordan Mason. I have Jordan Mason ranked 30th. ECR on him is 43, so I have him 13 spots ahead of the ECR currently. And this just came to pushing up ahead of this group because he did have a fair amount of guaranteed workload last week and was successful with it and isn't in a terrible matchup. I think that Jordan Mason's kind of a top-end backup running back. Kyren Williams, Gus Edwards, Kareem Hunt really being the most likely to be ahead of Jordan Mason when all is said and done. But let's get to this tier with Kyren Williams, who I ranked 31st, 3 spots ahead of the ECR. The ECR on him is 34 going up against Las Vegas. It's a good matchup. The question is he going to be on the field enough to matter? And for that to happen, Las Vegas has to take a lead. And Las Vegas is the better team than the Rams. We expect they could and should be able to take a lead, but they're kind of a team who doesn't really take advantage of matchups a whole lot. They just are who they are. They're not dominant in any way, but they're scary. One would think that this could be a Kyren Williams game, but you're taking a big risk by playing him. But I do have some small amount of faith that eventually this will turn into a Kyren Williams thing, and especially if there's a worse quarterback there than John Wolford to help push that narrative, all the better for Kyren. Then Gus Edwards I have here at running back 32, and also Kenyon Drake here at running back 37. These guys are very fluid because J.K. Dobbins might be coming back this week, in which case, we'll put maybe J.K. somewhere around here and Gus Edwards somewhere around here is probably how that would end up looking. Just wanted to point that out, that those guys are in very fluid situations, along with many of these running backs this week. Then at running back 34, I have Kenneth Gainwell 3 spots ahead of the ECR going up. The ECR on him is 37 going up against the New York Giants. It's a pretty decent running matchup there, not a bad week for Philadelphia running backs between him and Boston Scott, who I have 10 spots ahead of the ECR. I have Boston Scott at running back 36. The ECR on him is 46 currently. I like at least one of them to be getting a touchdown along with Miles Sanders. I do think that they'll end up probably, this could be a game where Jalen Hurts ends up sitting in for a period of time in the fourth quarter. I think that's very possible here. So I like the traditional running back style of Boston Scott in a matchup where they may try to just set up the ground game a little bit more than normal-ish here, but Kenny Gainwell has proven to be the better back for the most part this season, been more available as well, so I have a tough time putting Boston Scott ahead of him, but I have a feeling that it really might end up being Boston Scott this week. You gotta be desperate to be playing these guys, but I do like them if you're in a desperate situation. We'll just say it like that. And then that brings us to the final tier of running backs, starting off at RB37, going through ultimately RB 48, I believe. Yeah, I have 48 running backs here. So at 37, I have Kenyon Drake, followed by Ty Johnson, Dontrell Hilliard, Alexander Madison, Jaylen Warren, Chuba Hubbard, Joshua Kelly, Amir Abdullah, James Robinson, and Kenneth Walker, the third at the bottom here. So obviously Kenny Walker, if he is playing, we'll put him up higher. If Chuba Hubbard, if Deonta Foreman is not playing, he would be higher up. There is some concern about injury there. In that case, Chuba would be very valuable going up against Seattle for one of the better matchups this week. Once again, those Seattle backs are all in flux. So that is it for the running backs. Really nothing else to talk about in here. Obviously, the Ty Johnson, James Robinson, any kind of value that they have is in flux as well with Michael Carter. Should point that out. So thank you very much. Wide receiver video coming out, and if you need any quarterback tight end advice, check out those videos.